Hi, and welcome to the Boat Princess podcast. My name is Nikki Vo, and I'm your host. I am a boat owner, a marina owner, a director on the Marina Industries Association, and a huge advocate for boating. In this series, I'm sharing the stories from every nook of the boating industry with the intention of encouraging more women to join me and for more women to get behind the helm too. I want to share the experience and opportunities of boating, of the boating industry, and I want you to join me as I bring the conversations and answer all the questions you've had. Boating is not just for the glamorous and rich and famous. It's full of beautiful and interesting people making the most of our natural environment and getting out there, enjoying the waterways. So let's set off the lines, take over the helm, and escape to the world of boating. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Boat Princess podcast. I am here with somebody I've wanted to meet for quite some time because I've heard about him from so many different people, and I really, really love the business that he's running now, which is his own business, which is very, very exciting. Chris Gates, who is the founder of Setag Yachts. Welcome to the Boat Princess podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It is so good to have you here. So tell me, Chris, you've been in this industry for a very, very long time. Tell me about where you started.
I started by accident, in reality. I didn't really intend to join the industry. I only worked for two companies and then set my own up. So from school, I went to do a technical apprenticeship at a company, which was in truth steered by my parents. It was a fantastic business, and I fell in love with that business and worked my way through that company and ended up in a senior position, running production, running European sales at a very relatively young age. I was very, I wasn't ambitious, but I was very. I had no tolerance for anything that wasn't perfect.
Okay.
So I had a big drive in me. So they put me in departments where they needed to have huge change. And I suddenly found myself elevated through the business. And I really enjoyed that business. But there was a gentleman that, unfortunately politics is in business today, and it's awful. And there was a gentleman who came in control of that business that I had no respect for. So I decided to leave. And at the point in time I decided to leave, I was tapped on the shoulder by a consultancy firm that I'd done some work with, that were doing some work inside Princess. Although I knew where Princess Yachts were, well, they weren't called Princess Yachts, they were called Marine Projects.
Okay. And
they were a small boat yard down in Plymouth. And because I'm a Plymothian, I'd know of them, but I had no interest in the business whatsoever. But this gentleman asked me to go and meet one of the directors from there. I went down there. I thought it would do me for a year until I found out what I really wanted to do, and then I fell in love with the business. It's a fascinating industry full of very, very, very unassuming, clever people, and it drew me in.
Yeah. So
that was in '89.
Wow. Okay, that's a while ago. When things like Madonna were in.
I don't quite remember that,
but was my musical era in the late 80s. I love the late 80s. And we always used to wear such fun things in the 80s, where these wacky outfits we all had. And it was fun time in the 80s. So you're there at Princess. What's your particular role there?
Well, the founder of Princess, who is a phenomenal gentleman called David King, knew that he had he had a big, small business and wanted to become a small, big business. And he brought in a team of consultants and spent a lot of money back in 1987, 1988. And the reality was it was a waste of time. But they didn't have any controls. We had no bills of material, no computer systems, we had a very archaic scheduling system. And as he was removing these consultants from the business, they said, you need to have someone that understands how to plan.
Yep.
So that's one of the jobs I did in my previous role. So I came in as their production controller to put in a system. We put in bills of material, and I got to understand. I was very fortunate, and I was befriended by 3 or 4 people in the company that knew they needed help, that were in control of manufacturing, but didn't know what to do. But where these consultants were telling them what to do, they needed someone that could truly understand their problem. And these guys put their arm around me, taught me about boat building, and we created a scheduling and management system that made them successful.
Wow.
And then that evolved into a few years later. I was then running production, and a few years later, I was the operations director.
Wow. So real, true career progression in one space. Yeah.
It's my view of, there's a lot of people out there, and there's, if you can make a big difference, you can do it in this industry very quickly, because it's a very complex industry. It's fascinating. It's multifunctional and very, very, very interesting.
Yeah. There's so many elements to it, isn't there? That's the thing.
There are, and it's slightly unfair, because although the boats sell for a very large amount of money, the infrastructure needed to support that knowledge base is relatively thin. So therefore, you have to become an expert in everything. So no, I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Princess.
Awesome. And so you've got family that you're enjoying whilst you're at Princess. You grow a family.
Yeah, well, I went there when I joined in the late 80s. My wife was pregnant, my first son, and we grew a family there. A family of eldest boy, 2 girls. They went all the way through, through their childhood, through adulthood, blossomed through university, or my son went off to be a captain. And if you look at the number of families that Princess has supported over the decades, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And most of them look back with real love in their heart and truth.
Yeah, love that. So on family, you're actually working with one of your family now, aren't you? Because the beautiful Ellie that we interviewed last year is your daughter.
She is, yeah.
She is part of your new business, which is Setag Yachts. Tell me where the inspiration came from for this business.
Well, I retired from Princess in 2020, and unfortunately went straight into the pandemic. So we were locked down in the UK. The weather was glorious in the first lockdown, and everybody, in truth, loved it because the world just stopped and we had time to think about things for 5 minutes. And I tell a story because I thought if you ask me what one of my hobbies is, it would be gardening. But when you're gardening 7 days a week for a month,
it's no longer a hobby.
You realise that it's no fun. I just like cutting the grass on a Sunday afternoon is what I mean by I like gardening. And I thought, why on earth have I've got all this knowledge that is so unique in many, many ways.
Absolutely.
And yet I'm spending my time cutting the grass. And a friend of mine asked me to look at some an aspect of the industry that I hadn't taken that much notice of, which was the pre-owned market. And I realized that the service level in the pre-owned market is predominantly quite poor.
Yep.
Because it's built up and supported by a network of very enthusiastic individuals who have become very good at their own element. But the electrician that grows up, who's fantastic at doing navigation equipment,
yep,
the customer begins to trust him, and then he hears that the customer needs some upholstery doing or some fiberglass work doing, and he's got a mate that does that. And so there's this network of these small businesses, and the truth is some of them are fantastic and some of them are very poor. And the service level that combines to give the pre-owned market is very, very poor.
And the client actually ends up kind of project managing it as well, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And they get frustrated because they get let down. The guys aren't business people, so they overcommit and they get themselves into trouble. And there isn't that professional, fully engineered design-orientated service with proper project managers in there that deliver a whole project. So I thought there's a phenomenal opportunity. The market doesn't really exist. It does in the super yacht area.
Yep.
So I'm familiar with it, with the Fedships of the world. That is a normal business.
Yes.
But it isn't in the 40 to 40 meter size. That is not normal.
Yeah.
So I spent a little bit of time looking at it and thought there's a huge opportunity here.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that are going for it. There's this. We're all becoming more aware of the environmental impact of issues. We all want to understand what sustainability is about. It's strange, and I always tell the story. It's strange. If you ask me what Princess was built on during mine and David's time, the greatest issue would be value for money. It's difficult to look at something that's multi-million-pound, but and say actually it's great value for money, and that's what we built Princess on. That's what its core foundations were. And I looked at how these boats are out there, and they look so poor. They date very quickly. The environmental impact on them. If they've been in the Mediterranean for a period of time, they do take a real large hit.
They do. In Australia, even more so.
They can look very poor relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And yet, we can breathe a new life back into that product. And, they're normally relatively low hours on the engines. The engines everyone looks at and says, well, I've got 2,000 engine hours. We say, well, a half-life of an engine is 50,000 hours.
Yes.
So it's a zero.
Yes.
As long as it's properly maintained, there's nothing to worry about at all.
No, because most of them are actually bus engines that are transferred to marine, aren't they? So if you think about how many miles a bus covers in its lifetime.
That's right.
You're so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's people
so
often say.
As long as you keep up to date with the relative, modern navigation equipment and things like that.
Yeah.
We can make a boat that's very tired look absolutely beautiful very relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And I just thought this is a service that needs to be offered, and again its growth potential I think is enormous. And we started off relatively slow, and it's fortunately blossoming.
That's brilliant. So what sort of size of boats and style of boats do you focus on? Is there a particular area you work in?
Well, we started looking at I spoke to a friend of mine who'd had a refit done, and it wasn't the greatest of stories. It wasn't value for money, number one. And the core reason it wasn't value for money is because the people that did the refit didn't truly understand how the boat was built from the ground up.
Okay.
So they weren't bad people.
Yep.
But they put suboptimal solutions in place because they didn't truly understand how it was built.
Yep.
So I put together a team of people, all of which have got phenomenal pedigrees in the industry. They're the ex-design director of Fairline, ex-development manager out of Sunseeker, ex-Princess development managers. Collectively, we put together a team that could concentrate on Princess Fairline in Sunseeker because we knew that we would be absolute professionals in that area.
Yep.
But from that, we've been approached by numerous other customers of other brands that can see what we can do.
Yes.
Very quickly trust us. And now basically if we're comfortable to do it and we understand the product, then we'll take the job on. Yep. If we don't, then we say that we're not experts in that. So sailing boats, for instance. Although when I first joined Princess, we were building Moody sailing boats.
Oh, I love Moody's.
Sigma and Eclipse, the fantastic brands.
Beautiful boats, yeah.
And so I personally have got a good understanding of them. But the team haven't got that experience. So we say, no, although we could do that work, we don't feel we're the experts at that. So we'll leave that alone. But where we've looked at brands like boats that we've done, like Brooms, Hunton, we've taken them on because the skills that we have within the business can be adapted towards those individual brands. We understand how those boats are built.
Yeah, Yeah. And what sort of size boats are we talking here from what to what
Our
footage?
smallest one to date is about a 38-footer, I think.
Okay.
And then the largest one is an 85.
Nice.
And we're quoting on boats that are up to about 140 foot.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So
Yeah.
I'd love to look at the the bigger. Um, if I want to do the bigger end of the Princess Sunseeker Fairline range,
Yeah.
then most of the work's outside of the UK. In truth,
Yeah.
because they're not boating in the UK today. I'm growing the business in the UK, so to do that sort of volume of product and that size in the UK is significant. But I know that the recipe, if I take it with this professional team to the Mediterranean, for instance, then it will absolutely blossom.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So just to explain to our listeners exactly how Setag works as opposed to what is available to them in the market now, you've actually got a full internal team that you put onto a project to actually run that whole refurbishment with that team, correct?
Well, the first thing we do is to try and ascertain what the customer wants to do. So very early on, because we introduced something called the third way,
Okay.
which is you can buy a new boat, you can buy a pre-owned boat. My experience of buying pre-owned boat is it's a transaction. It's like buying a chocolate bar. There is no interaction. You buy it, you take it away that day. There's no aftermarket service. There's zero. So it's a very transactional industry. Whereas the new boat sales is very personal. And I felt, well, why have we lost the perspective that somebody who's spending £250,000 is still not a lot of money?
Yeah.
That's been lost.
Yes.
Somehow, it seems strange, but
yes.
It's absolutely lost. So you've got these pre-owned boats that are being sold in a transactional manner, and then you just get what you're given.
Yep.
And it's a lottery.
Mm.
So we said, hang on, but there's a third way of doing it. You can buy a pre-owned boat, and you can have the quality of a new boat through ourselves. So we've had people that have bought pre-owned boats, had them delivered straight to us.
Okay.
We then survey them completely.
Yep.
Give them a full report on the mechanics and the electronics within it, and this.
I didn't realise you did that. Okay.
And then we sit down and say, well, what do you want to do on the interior? Do you want it to? How do you want it to look? What sort of taste are you looking to achieve?
Yep.
And they'll have an engineering lead, and they'll have a design lead on the boat. And through that, then between us and the client, we will specify a mechanical and an engineering list of work to be done.
Yep.
And a cosmetic list of work to be done. And the cosmetics are normally more intrusive, because if you've got a problem with a deteriorating headlining or side linings, then sometimes the whole of the interior of the boat's got to come out.
Yeah.
So they can be more intrusive. But equally, they can have the biggest impact. The biggest impact on, when you walk on, when we were designing Princesses, you want people to like the exterior, but when they walk in the patio door, they've got to love the interior.
Yeah.
Because that's where they'll spend most of their time.
Yes.
You want that wow factor when you walk in, and it's the soft furnishings and the timber work that give you that. And the older boats tend to have far too much timber in them. They're hard, although they're luxury, they're hard surfaces. And the newer boats today will have a lot more soft surfacing in. So we tend to design in a new, softer interior that's got all the looks and smell of new, but at the value of a pre-owned price.
Wow. So you've got I mean, I'm a person that falls in love with my material things.
Yes.
I have a car that I've had for 28 years, right? And then I have another car that is, she probably needs changing in, but I don't want to change her in because I really like her, right? And I do believe that you fall in, I certainly do. I fall in love with my boats, my cars, and so on and so forth. So you're giving people that opportunity that have done that. They've fallen in love with a particular boat that they have.
Yes.
But they're looking at it and they're thinking, oh, that's not, as you say, headlinings are a classic example. They do start to fall down and they make the boat look really shabby. So you're giving the people the opportunity to kind of fall in love with that boat again, right?
Yes, that's right. So there are some clients that have come to us that want to fall in love with their boat all over again. If you look at our broom we actually did a marketing strap line. We said, you fall in love with your boat all over again.
Yeah.
And there are certain customers that come to us that absolutely love their boat. The gentleman loves it. The lady hates the interior.
Yep.
They come and they've always wanted to have. We've got a gentleman who's just bought a very expensive Pershing, but his passion is in a much smaller boat that he's had from like years ago.
Yep.
There's a gentleman that we're doing now, a huge refit on a Portofino 46 that's having complete start again. The engines are out, all the engine room stripped out to bare fiberglass, all the interior stripped out to bare fiberglass, because he is very much like yourself. He is in love with that particular yard number, and he will end up with something that's unique and beautiful. So no, it's a very, very, very comprehensive service.
Yeah, and it must be very satisfying to see the clients go through that process with you.
It is, because they enjoy the process. They enjoy sitting down with a designer. We got 3 design people that are capable of sitting down with a client, and they manage them all the way through. From the first day to the end, they'll do the handover. They're answering all their questions. They're trying to create something that's very unique for them. It is incredibly satisfying. Incredibly satisfying.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that, if we deliver that, every client that we satify will bring 2 or 3 more of their friends.
Yes.
And that's what's happening today.
Yeah,
because
I can
people
imagine.
go on their boat. People, if you bought a secondhand boat, and you've bought a £500,000 boat that was, say, £2 million new.
Yep.
When you walk on it, are your friends going to be really blown away?
Mm.
Or do they come down to your boat and say, actually, wow, look at the state of that interior? Or even if it's in beautiful condition, it'll be very old-fashioned.
Yes, very dated.
Very, very dated. So, if you walk on any of ours, and we've exhibited them at a couple of boat shows, you will very, very quickly see that they absolutely feel and look brand new.
Yeah. And I love the way that you do your little tag, your little logo on the seats and so on.
Yes.
So that's an illustration. This has been C-tagged.
Yes.
As opposed to just a normal refurbishment. And that's kind of, I'm guessing that's kind of your marketing plan to.
It is. We're building a brand. So if you take Overfinch in the UK, it takes a Range Rover, which is a beautiful product to start with. Yep. And it makes it very personal and very special. And everyone knows that an Overfinch is a level above the standard product. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So
everything we do is done to a standard of a new boat builder. We develop those standards. It is that strap line. This is being remodeled by the people that designed and built these boats in the first place.
Yes.
So it's quite unique, but it takes us to another level. So we've actually got a new Princess coming to us shortly, that haven't even given birth to it yet.
Wow!
And it's booked in for an upgrade. So it's not having a refit. It's taking a product and we're adding a level to it, a personal sophistication that can't be given by the new boat builder. I get that. It's very complex to run that, and it's very complex to give that sort of attention to an individual client. But that's what we do.
That's great. And I guess what we're talking about here as well is you're giving an opportunity to somebody that can't afford the $4 million boat, right? That's the brand new, fantastic, we'd all love to have it, boat.
Yes.
They simply just don't have that in the bank, right, to hand over
Yes.
for that particular boat. But they can take a $500,000 boat and add perhaps a couple, some couple another hundred or whatever it takes to get it to where they want it to. And you're creating something so incredibly special for them at the level they can afford, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's to me, it's a very intuitive thing to do. I've never come across any wealthy person, and I've dealt with wealthy people throughout the world for decades that give away money easily.
No.
It's all hard work. Whether whether you've created a business from scratch and it's just been bought by some organization or other, or you're at the other end and you're at the end where you just want to go boating with your family, and you just put together as much as you can. No one wants to give their money away easily, so therefore, why not do things in a way that make economic sense? And to me, you take something that is where the depreciation has already been washed out, and then you add value to it. And the boats that we've done, we've added value to, and they've actually sold for more money than their original purchase price.
Oh, I love that.
So you add value to them, and they won't depreciate. They're at the bottom of the depreciation curve.
Yes.
So all you do is have the fun.
Yeah.
All you do is have the fun.
Yeah.
No, it's that's this message we're trying to get over to the world, that this is third way. Just give it an opportunity. Just look at it, and then intuitively, some people will stick within you, and those are to be congratulated because we all need them in the industry.
Well, if we didn't have the new ones, we won't have ones to refurb, right?
Exactly. So we've got to look after the future. So it's it is something that when you start to think about it, we all do it with our homes.
Yes.
Who would buy a new home and then just jump in someone else's bed and their bed linen and just carry on living in it as if they bought? That's what buying a pre-owned boat's like.
Yes.
Where we said, no, actually, we take all that out, bring it back to you. It's all new bedding, new interior, new mattresses. It's just absolutely as if it's a new boat handover.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. So for those of you that follow me on Instagram, and I hope there's a few of you out there, I truly appreciate that. You'll see me often in a really nice cap with my logo on it and a really nice jacket or two with my logo on it. And those are produced for me by Quality Marine Clothing. Now, Quality Marine Clothing specialise in creating uniforms and branded clothing and water bottles and everything really that you'd like your brand on. They are happy to put together for you. So please let them know that you heard about them on my podcast, The Boat Princess, and they will look after you so well. I promise. They're wonderful. So that's Quality Marine Clothing. And if you just want one jacket with your boat name on, then you can use their retail store, which is Ross and Whitcroft. So you're obviously working with your family, that must be different for you, because obviously working for Princess, it was a very big business by the time you were no longer involved in it. This is getting back to groundworks of really starting your own business, and that must be very exciting for you to develop that.
It is very exciting, but anyone knows me knows that I'm hands-on.
Yeah.
I love detail. I love to get involved. Even when we're running Princess, and at one point in time we were building 1,000 boats a year.
Yeah.
And I was, at the coalface, hands-on all the time. That's why I enjoy that. I don't do it because I'm checking on things. I just enjoy that. And even today, when I'm with the craftsmen, and when I say it's going to take a day to do that, they say no, it's 2. I want to understand why.
Yes.
And when I enjoy that learning, it's just that's what gives me my kicks.
Yeah.
So today, and Ellie would kick me if I'm honest with you, because it isn't a family company. It's a small company with family members in it,
Right.
because
You love
everyone's
that.
got to earn
Yeah.
their corn.
Yeah.
So and I'm a tough taskmaster.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I don't have to be with our small organisation, because I've selected people that are at the top of their game.
Yeah.
So to be in Setag, there's two prerequisites. You've got to be in the top quartile of your skill.
Yeah.
So all the engineers, the craftsmen, the painters, the designers, the marketing team are all at the top end of their game. And you have to be a nice person, because the world's full of all sorts of people. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
And I only need to be a certain size, so I can afford to be very selective. So you have to be a real nice person, and you have to be a very, very skilled person.
Which gives then your clients a whole feel to the whole process, doesn't it?
Exactly. So when they're there with the carpenter and they ask for something to be done, they phone you up and say, that guy was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
He went above and beyond because they don't need to be told. They don't need to be given an instruction manual or a set of policies.
Yeah.
They just do it because they're nice people.
Yes. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I being a bit woo-woo, if somebody's doing something nice is doing, well, it's called that sort of, ethereal sort of feel to it, right? If somebody is nice, is working on your boat, that energy is transferring through to that.
It is
as well,
it is.
So, and I think it all adds up to a beautiful experience that creates a space that everybody then gets to enjoy.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the other thing I really love about your business is that you are really tackling a bit of an issue we have in the boating industry with boats are not easy to get rid of.
No.
They're not recyclable. The steel ones are, which is fantastic, but the fiberglass ones, they are an issue. And the fact that you are taking, because they do actually last a long time.
They do,
right?
They'll last our lifetime.
Yeah. So the fact that you're taking some of those magnificent boats, which were built beautifully in the first place, and you're then bringing them to a new time, if you like, with the things that you do, means that they can be enjoyed for so much longer. And we're kind of therefore arresting part of that problem.
Undoubtedly. This is, we are probably the most sustainable business in the industry, because, we work with sustainable products. So one of our designers, Sarah, who's design director, is passionate about sustainability.
Yeah.
So there is a collection of materials that are recycled, that she's been selecting and working on for years, in truth. So we can go down that road. But in truth, we take a product that has already had its impact on the world.
Yep.
And we make it like new again.
Yeah.
Which is, absolutely unique.
Yeah, and as you say, we've always done that with our houses.
Yeah, yes.
So it makes sense to do it with our boats as well, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just it's all the people we've come across, they think about it, but they don't know who to reach out to have it done. So that's why we've created the business we've created, and it makes so much sense. As soon as you start to give it time, as soon as you start to think about it, then all we want to do is be considered as an option, because we believe that once you put that option on the table, then it will become the intelligent man's choice.
Yeah, it makes incredible sense to me. Yeah, and so I guess, Chris, we're kind of your business is opening up a whole good situation for boaters, and that we all know that when we buy a boat, new or secondhand, there are invariably things that we find that niggle us, or actually go wrong, or perhaps need changing, and all those sorts of things. So we'll own a boat for 4, 5, 6 years, and we'll finally get all through all that. And then lots of us would go, okay, I need another boat. because we've kind of done that, and it's this human nature. Once you finish
Yes.
something, you tend to want to start again, right? But I guess they can come to you once they've spent all that money on those niggles, and then you get into it so that they can.
That's the lovely thing about our business is it's so multifaceted in the customer base it can deal with. So there are clients that absolutely love their boat. They understand it. They can hear a squeak or a knock, and they can know that there's something right or wrong with it, and they're very comfortable with it, and it suits their size because they're used to it with their family. But it looks dated.
Yeah,
it isn't something that when they bring their friends on, they go wow, or they're within the community they see what they all go to. The boat show is full of boating enthusiasts, isn't it?
Yes.
Looking at, dreaming about what the future holds, and we all do that.
Yeah,
that's great. We all do that in our own hobbies.
Yeah.
And yet you can achieve that now at a sensible budget with something that you know and trust.
Yeah.
How fantastic is that?
Yeah.
And the other great element that we try and get over is, who doesn't want new boat quality at pre-owned prices?
Yeah.
If you asked a boater, what is your dream? So I want it to be pre-owned prices, but with absolute new quality.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it was interesting. I was talking to, because I did a lovely interview with Sarah Luck, your designer. She's an absolute gem to talk to because she's a very talented girl. Yeah. And afterwards we went for a coffee before we started this interview with you, and she was talking about a client and I'm interested to understand this, how you change perhaps the minds of clients sometimes, that they come to you and say, oh, I want to do this. Because she was talking about a client that came to you and said, I want to change the timber in the boat because there's too much timber. I want to cover up the timber floor and with a carpet. And she said, no, I wouldn't do that because that's beautiful, but I would change the timber in the galley. Do you do that quite often, that you're changing?
We do it all the time. So first thing we do, if you phone us up and say, I've heard about Setag, I've looked at your website, you do some fantastic stuff, but this, I've got my particular boat. You say, well, first thing is take a video of it, talk to the video and tell us what you don't like.
Okay.
But equally, show us all the other bits that interface with that and tell us what you do like. And then we go back and we call it a scoping budget. We'll say you need to spend £50,000 or £60,000 to resolve all that. But this is the list of work we'd actually recommend you do. And 80% of it will be what you want, what you've identified.
Yeah.
And the other 20% will be what we've identified. And some of the stuff that you've identified, we're saying, no, leave that alone. Because the art of interior design and boat design is complex. And most people haven't got the vision or the experience to understand what's actually niggling at them. What don't they like about this? And they'll pick on a certain element of it, and it'll bury themselves inside them. So they'll constantly hate the floor or whatever it is, And yet that isn't the issue. Yeah. It's just that the whole thing isn't blended. So what we do then is we visualize that to them, come back and show them. And on a number of occasions, numerous occasions, we'll say, well, actually, you should be doing your helm seats. And they'll say, no, we don't want that done. We don't want that done. We just want this area done. And basically, we've taken upon ourselves to do the additional work. And I'd say to them, we're coming on board now. I'll tell you now, we've done the additional work. If you like it, you can pay for it. If you don't like it, then don't pay for it. And everyone goes on and says, thank goodness you've done that. Because they haven't got that's our skill. That's what we've spent, decades and decades doing, understanding the balance of that interior or exterior. That makes it work. And Sarah's an expert at that, along with the rest of us.
Yeah, and you've had such a long career in this industry.
Yes,
you really understand what works on boats and what doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you've got, I spent my life looking at the competition's boats and our own, because that's how they've evolved. That's how the British boat building industry became so strong.
Yeah,
it's because you have these very, very strong businesses competing with each other.
Yeah,
and then getting onto the international platform, obviously. So no, it's been and it's fun. It's if you enjoy it, it's fun.
Yeah.
So I enjoy going to boat shows today and looking at what people are doing. It's fascinating because the evolution in the industry is very quick.
Yes.
Very, very fast indeed.
Yeah.
It needs to be, because it's a high-end fashion industry at the end of the day.
Yes, true enough.
Yeah.
And they've got to, you've got to have a reason to buy a new boat, right? They've got to keep creating different things in the new
majority
boats.
of new boat sales would go to a customer who's got a boat less than 5 years old.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have to reinvent yourself constantly.
Yeah.
That gives a cycle to the industry.
Yes.
And therefore, that's why it gives this enormous pre-owned market that needs taking care of.
Yeah. Which you're just going to take care of them, Chris.
One by one.
So what's your dream? What's your full vision for Setag? What do you see in the future for Setag?
I see it to grow both in the UK and in certain spots around the world. But I only want to grow to the point in time where I run out of talented, nice people.
Right. Yeah.
So, but some businesses grow beyond that, and they become difficult corporate businesses to manage. And I don't want that really for Setag. It is fun. It is what we do. It is our business is fun. The people that are nice to be around, they're talented. We're all going to the rugby at the weekend. One of the lads has organised that, and it's just fun. And as long as we can create a business to a size that it maintains fun, and we can deliver the service level we're delivering today, then I'll be delighted.
Yeah. I have a really important question for you. I'm hoping you're coming to Australia one day. Please come to Australia one day, Chris.
Well, we know if we can take our unique skill into any of the environments where boating is in their blood,
yeah,
it'd boom.
Yeah,
it'd boom.
Absolutely.
Because everyone thinks it's simple. It's not. It's very complex.
Yes,
very complex.
Yeah,
but we love it, and it's easy to the people inside our company because they're all enthusiasts.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. Chris, it has been amazing talking to you today and learning all about Setag. I personally think it's an absolutely outstanding company. I love the way you've put it together. I love your branding. I love your approach.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Yeah, it's just magnificent kind. Because I do think pre-owned boats are something that we need to nurture and something we need to bring them back to life. And because those boats have been built beautifully, and we need to preserve that kind of thing.
Absolutely. But we said it before. It's just like your house. Today you look at a listed property and it's well taken care of. It's absolutely beautiful. There are thousands of boats out there, hundreds of thousands of boats out there that deserve to be looked after a little bit better than they're looked after today. Yeah.
So are you dealing with boats all over the world at the moment, or just specifically in UK? Who can come to you at this point?
Anybody can come to us. So, you can find us at setagyachts.com. You can write to us at info@setagyachts.com. There's a telephone number there. One of the team will call you back within the day. So, anyone can talk to us, but it's all about economics at the moment. So we've done some work all over Europe. But they tend to be bigger projects. We will be expanding. We will be expanding in different geographies through the world. And there's a huge advantage in actually shipping the boat. So one of the boats we just shipped back from Europe to the UK.
Okay.
Because we've got a facility of doing that work tax-free. So it becomes, suddenly you can change the cost of the VAT that you would normally be charged in your local area, or we would have to charge you if you did the work there. If it's a big enough project, we can bring it back. That work's done tax-free. It pays for the shipping.
Wow.
So there's
big.
It's huge. It's huge. So there's numerous ways of it. Other people, you might, to me, it's if I was in Australia today, I'd be looking for a tired boat in Europe.
Yes.
Sending it directly to us,
yes,
having it done, and then shipping the thing to Australia.
I think that's an extraordinary idea, Chris.
And then so there's numerous ways. So anyone can talk to us wherever they are in the world.
Yeah.
There's a solution. It isn't necessarily just us shipping the guys out in a container full of kit out there straight away.
Yeah.
But we've got a boat in build at the moment, which is a Dutch gentleman keeping his boat in the Mediterranean. Bought his boat from Scandinavia.
Okay.
As it's passing, it's coming in for a big refit. So there's numerous ways, but there's just this opportunity of, as we'd all want, having this new boat feel for a very fair price.
Yeah. Well, an interesting thing, specifically talking to the Australian market, is that we do have an issue with older European boats in that the headlinings do go on simply because of the heat that they're exposed to in Australia. And there's also the thing that we are a limited market, and there are some secondhand boats that simply aren't available in Australia because you have such a much broader market over here in Europe. So I guess it gives us the opportunity to pick up a nice Fairline Princess or Sunseeker and have it, as you say, taken to you first.
Exactly.
And then shipped out to Australia.
Exactly. We can organise all the shipping as we're doing for these couple of boats that we've got in at the moment.
Yeah.
And all the necessary paperwork can be done. So no, it's we can get our service across the globe, but it's about the economics. And luckily, Europe is there's a couple of big hubs in the world of where all the boats are, and Europe is one of them.
Yes.
South America is another one. It's a great opportunity. And the guys, I originally started the company thinking that the trade would tune into it as a very, very quickly. And I spent a lot of energy talking to the trade, but it doesn't, because the trade is done in a traditional way. It's very fast turnover. It's selling that boat on brokerage. We deal with the end client.
Yeah.
And if the end client it gives it a fair hearing, looks at it, then we believe that there's such an obvious choice in having this new boat quality for pre-owned price. Therefore, you can go shopping in a very different way.
Yeah, exactly right. And you can have that vision of, okay, this is a tired boat, but I can make it into something completely different. So you don't have to disregard it.
Exactly.
As a purchase potential,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's very exciting.
Yeah. So just have it, what we say to people, because a lot of people phone us up for advice. And we'll say, let's just make sure you have a proper survey on it, understand what you're getting involved with. Once you've got that proper survey on it, then you can make your adjustment to the purchase price.
Yep.
And then the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And you can achieve something that's absolutely unique to you. And what we tend to do is, I think all the projects we've done have got an interior in them that's more luxurious than any boat of that size would have. And that's the most, because the cost, you were talking to Sarah, the cost of the exquisite materials, and they are more expensive, but if you use them in such an economic way through the design process, you can make them absolutely sing quality for relatively little more compared to what the basic material costs would be.
Yeah.
So it's a way of having something truly special. So when you've bought that boat that is 10 years old and your friends come down to it, they go, absolutely, wow, this is stunning.
Yeah, amazing.
Rather than walking away thinking, oh, that's a little bit tired, it smells a bit.
We never want people to walk away from our boat saying it smells a bit, do we?
That's right. That's the worst scenario in the world. But
they do. They do.
Sadly, they have a tough innings. The boats, as you say, the boats have a tough innings.
They really do.
But there's no the fundamentals of them. What really the true value in them, their hulls, their engineering, the wiring, all the stuff that you don't see is all in Great Neck.
Yeah,
it's all the stuff you do see, which is and it dates. It looks old fashioned, and if the sun's attacked it, it will be suffering.
Yeah.
But no, we can make them look like absolutely look and feel and smell like new.
Wonderful. Do you have a favourite project that you've worked on?
When I was developing boats with Princess, David would always take the mickey out of me because he'd always say that I fall in love with my latest girlfriend. So my favourite boat was always the last one we were working on, because in truth, you put a little bit of your soul into them.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun. If you don't have that passion, then it's just a job. So now the joy is in watching the people pick them up.
Yeah.
You watch the people pick them up. I tell them that you don't really want to come and see it halfway through construction. Half of them do.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, I understand what you mean now. Because it's a bit like looking at I use the analogy, which is a tough analogy, but it's just like looking at your child on an operating theatre. You know they're in the hands of the experts, and you pray for a good result. The last thing is you want to see it.
Yes.
So it's very tough to see a boat that you love then taken apart. But when they come to see the finished article, they're blown away.
Yeah.
Absolutely blown away.
Magical. Yeah. That must be a magical moment.
It's lovely. Yeah. It's really nice because all of them become, they speak very highly of the business, and they all phone us up for advice, and they're all very happy to tell us that they've recommended us to their friends. To earn that, that reputation in a relatively short period of time just shows you that we've got things right.
Yeah, exactly right. So just give us your website details and so on, Chris, so people can find you easily.
So at setagyachts.com, www.setagyachts.com. You can email us on info@setagyachts.com, or there's a phone number on the website that'll get you to one of the team relatively quickly.
Yeah. Before we go, just one thing you'd like to say to anybody contemplating coming into this industry, what would you say?
I would say come in full-hearted. It's a fantastic industry. It's full of very, very clever people. And above all, if you can mix a bit of fun and a bit of business together, that's got to be a dream.
Yeah, love it. Thanks, Chris. And I love following you on Instagram as well.
Well, that's Ellie.
Oh,
see,
that's so much fun.
Looks like she's looking after the world.
I love it. So that's Setag, spelled Setag, guys, just when you're looking online.
And if you forget about it, the reason it's called Setag, which we spent good hard-earned money figuring out, it's Gates spelt backwards.
There we are. You see, it is a family business after all. But like I say, it's a small company with family in it. It sounds like it's an amazing company.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for being here. It's been lovely talking to you. I do appreciate you travelling all this way to Southampton from Plymouth. It's lovely of you to do that. We are here at the Southampton Harbour Hotel, and it's been amazing visiting the UK again. So many brilliant people in this boating industry in the UK. So lovely to talk to you, Chris, and we'll see you on the water soon. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Boat Princess podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you'd like to know more about what I do and where I am, then you can follow me on Instagram at The Boat Princess. You can also sign up to my newsletter on my website, which is theboatprincess.com. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you on the water soon.